Welcome to this intervention introduction for Francisco Palacio. He's Master in Science on Instructional Design and Technology at the University of Arizona Global Campus, Forbes School of Business and Technology. The intervention introduction aims to describe who the target audience is, to state the performance problem or learning need the project addresses, to also identify the project goals and learning outcomes, or CLOs, to outline the major features of the project, to describe how learners will navigate or be engaged, and to discuss the experience, including major milestones you had while creating the project. At that, there is a video that follows that encapsulates it and explains it for not only the Toastmasters audience, but anyone else out there that thinks that Zoom can be used to create content or any other video conferencing app. The intervention chose Zoom because it can be used for free. And action. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests, Zoom masters, host and co-host out there in the online world. My name is Francisco Palacio. I'm here to put a face on this intervention introduction. It's part of my final class at the University of Arizona Global Campus. The master's program is in Instructional Design Technology, which I chose to dedicate to Toastmasters. That's a personal choice of mine, nothing to be implied in terms of official endorsement or support. I wanted to make that clear. But simply because for the past few years, this organization has been not only exploring, but in my opinion, really getting the most out of the groupware experience. By groupware, I mean all these aggregate applications that many of us have access to, not just the Zoom, which has evolved on its own, but the other ones that we use at work that do the same thing. You get together, you hit record, and voila, you have your documentation. As a Toastmasters, though, as I work through the last few levels of my first path and I start working on other paths, personally, the use case being made in this intervention as it aims at documenting and archiving my speech projects, I feel it's useful not only within the Toastmasters organization, whereby a VP of Education can watch the tape together with the member and go past the initial oral evaluation, even have the evaluator come and take a look at the tape, as we normally say. But if the tape comes out great, much like in the world of sports, to continue borrowing from those metaphors, it could be the highlight tape for the club, the area, the district to put up on a promotional piece. Otherwise, for those of you professionals within and outside Toastmasters, again, the use case is for documenting and archiving. The title originally was collaborative content creation and production, or C4. The website was named c4hpl.org. c4hpl.org. The link will be at the end of the presentation. However, by now, it's evolved more towards me explaining it as a journaling journey. We do it all the time, record all these things. This is something else that we're going to add to our journals. As individuals, as Toastmasters, or as professionals. Like I said, many of us are now working remotely. The telecom meeting modality has now been mainstream. And again, from personal and professional experience, sometimes the best time to save the proceedings of a meeting, albeit unrefined, is at the time of the meeting. It serves as a reference point. It can help gather information, um, opinions, again, documentation. So the aim by now is twofold. I'm inviting Toastmasters who want to document their projects. I'm inviting Toastmasters who want to work on the social media project, the blogging project, even the podcasting project. Zoom allows for an audio file to be saved when we're recording. But also, I'm inviting the vice presidents of education to work with their members in this fashion and ideally help choose which of these tapes are worth being part of a highlight reel, if you will, for the club, the area, the district. Again, this is all a suggestion. This is all part of my personal experimentation with this technology. That's my day job, technology. And I was fortunately able to complete again this degree in instructional design technology. The only favor I can ask is after you watch and you check out the material, there'll be 2 hashtags at the end, journaling journey and C4HPL. If you could publish with that, that will complete the process. That's the only ask I have at this point, besides asking you to peruse the website, the materials, and see what applies to your own personal experience. And of course, if you know of a better way, I'm out there, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Would love to hear your feedback and your opinion. Again, Francisco Palacio, my introduction to the instruction and intervention titled Collaborative Content Creation and Curation. Thanks. So after that elaboration, again, we describe who the target audience is. Again, the intervention has been inspired by my participation for over a decade as a Toastmasters, as a member of Toastmasters International. Again, no official endorsement or any other support shall be inferred or construed by the use of their branding. Just a member. Thanks. Toastmasters International members who currently assist with the host or co-host roles may be interested. I am. I do it. I'm a host or co-host frequently. Members who assist with advanced video conferences tasks. As we all know, the application is laden with features. With those features, these members have assisted at events at the district or international levels, and by now we're calling them Zoom Masters. So you know who you are, Mr. or Mrs. Zoom Master. I'm also calling out on the Vice President of Education role. The documentation has value in terms of evaluation. And finally, those in the public relations role, out of multiple instances of this documentation, there could be 1 or 2 that can be used to promote. As they say, watch the tape, and then some of the tape makes it to the highlight reel. Continuing with describing the target audience, based on that, and after a year and a half evaluating, having the intervention tested and everything, I realized that this is not a unique situation. So anyone out there who assists with the host or co-host roles, who assists with advanced video conferencing, for example, larger events at their congregation, place of volunteering, we now see it at the same time. Something is happening. Many organizations are offering a live stream. I think that's the term that's conventionally used. And by now, also, I feel that content creators who collaborate and interact with their peers in any sphere via video conferencing groupware workspaces, I don't know what to call them. I've used the word groupware for a while, and it's the research paper that I'm turning in for this last class. But anything that allows video conferencing and recording can be used in this interventions use case. Finally, I wanted to add this slide. Anyone interested in using said groupware to create ad hoc documentation? I do it at work, but it being work, I cannot share those samples here. I use it a lot. You have a meeting, you're showing how to use something, the new technology, the upgrade, the changes, and you simply hit record. And though it may not be a perfectly post-produce, that's a big point of this intervention. I'm not asking anyone to post-produce. I'm trying to do a lot of preparation so we don't have to post-produce, spend time fiddling with the tape, even though both PowerPoint and YouTube channel studio have those tools. But it's just to create that ad hoc documentation on the spot, take advantage of it, and then to share it. Again, those of you out there watching that have, for example, access to full-blown installation of Office 365 have heard of a couple of other apps such as Teams and Stream. These use cases described, initially thought of for Toastmasters, it's a portable and applicable use case. Again, we now have Google Workspace. Zoom is trying to become yet another useful piece of groupware. And as I've mentioned before, Microsoft Office 365 in the cloud has the integration between Teams and Stream. That is very important. That's been insight gain and using it over the past couple of years. As we all know, we have done a lot of remote work and we have gotten it done. Next, state the performance problem or learning need the project addresses. Based on personal experience, again, learning about groupware or modern social media, as we call it, I started in 2007. I started capturing some personal milestones out of participating in Toastmaster International Advanced Selective projects, wrapping up a competent communicator project, just videotaping it, nothing too fancy, putting it on YouTube. It's out there, and it's been a handful of them. But today, from the Pathways Learning Experience, we have a social media presence, a podcasting and blogging elective projects on levels 3, 4, and 5. This use case, this intervention is meant to encourage people who may be having a hard time thinking, what am I going to put out there in terms of content, as to how they could create that content. And not only by themselves, the intervention was originally titled Collaborative Content Creation and Curation. The point is to interact, and in many cases is more the merrier. Furthermore, having both been trained and asked to give training on club officer roles that I've listed before, the roles that supported members in the completion of their personal and shared club goals, namely VP of Education and VP of Public Relations, but the thought of enabling those members willing to record, document, and share, emphasis on their own. This is for us to explain to them how easy it can be to do it by themselves. That's what the intervention is. We don't want extra work. We just want to enable them. So they could have choice speech projects documented. One more time, both for evaluation as well as personal and organizational promotional purposes. These documentation techniques easily add value by helping most users document anything they want to do. We're on Zoom already. Add a few extra steps. Like I said, try to avoid the thought of I'll fix it later. I'll fix it in post. I think that phrase is something that makes those who work with media shiver. It's just a few extra steps. Use the Zoom to record. And yes, consistent branding and integration tasks to keep them better organized. And having been trained on some of these roles, better organized also means to have explained the releases. Yes, Zoom now pops it up. Teams also pops it up. But explain to those partaking that this is going to be shared, okay, and try to mitigate any concerns about privacy. That includes the facilitating the sharing of the content over the platform of their choice. Could be YouTube, could be Stream. I think the use case applies to both. It's illustrated with between Google Slides, Zoom, and YouTube, but again, the audience that's familiar with it will see how they align with other applications. In the end, this is meant to make a library or a channel more enticing for themselves, again, for evaluation, and others for promotion to peruse. Identify the project goals and learning outcomes. It's been divided in three: branding and nomenclature, delivering professional, memorable branding for their content. That's something that within Toastmasters, when you have help assisted volunteer to be in the public relations role, you get excellent training on branding. The second learning outcome is the creation and production. Again, no matter what the app, Meet, Teams, Zoom, or any other ones out there that have a record button, we want to facilitate the creation of contents for purposes of documentation or work instruction or evaluation or promotion. Finally, the last learning outcome, or CLO, as you will see it on the website, is curation and dissemination. To manage and leverage the videography and the screencast, as we call them at school, the screencast, at the platform of their choice, all following, of course, applicable media releases agreed upon by the audience. Very important. Your media release back up the one that the application is showing. We started with branding and nomenclature, creation and production, curation and dissemination for the learning outcomes, and by now, we simply call them brand, create, share. That's, if you want, the core paradigm of this intervention: to brand, to create, and to share. Outline the major features of your project. The intervention has been designed since inception to take advantage of technology of the lowest cost possible. Meaning, for example, two of its technology choices, Google Slides and YouTube, are included when a Gmail account is set up. You go to the right on the browser and you see that you have access to all these apps. Google Slides is one of them. And yes, I can use YouTube because I open a Gmail account. It's that simple. They want you creating the content. The video conferencing choice that we're featuring is currently Zoom. Most features for this purpose of 2 or 3 people collaborating and using it can be used free of charge. And by now, when you have more than 3 people, most of those accounts are paid for and can be used. All the features can be used without limitations. Otherwise, the intervention is meant to illustrate the completion of the prepared speech projects that are contained in the chosen path the member is working on towards completion of the pathways learning experience. If anything, that's what I'm planning to do. With all this information, working on my second path, actually presentation mastery, that I'm working on. My third path is engaging humor. And I've already completed level 3, 4, and 5. I have to work on the blogging and the podcasting. That's why I'm here with these principles, with this use case for the content creation. To me, the documentation of said projects can be seen as a broader use case. I've been flipping the coin. This is not just for Toastmasters. This is for anyone who uses these tools, as they help visualize how interactive pieces of that documentation can be easily created with those with access. Again, this is not an official endorsement of anything. This is the ones I use. And for those of you who are familiar with them, you can see how portable the use case is. Because through the integration of these applications, which are aiming at producing viable quality documentation, the learner can not only keep track of his or her progress, but also learn to better produce materials and content for the completion of pathways electives, such as creation of a viable blog. Sign me up, podcasting. I'm about to start, most likely with this intervention introduction, only because the audio files will come out of a Zoom recording. And then finally, the creation of a social media presence. Mine is relatively well populated. It's a little bit not as organized as I would like, and that's why I have also by now started using the hashtag. It will be at the end. There's only two. Hashtag journaling journey. I think that's essentially what I'm doing out there with my social media. It's just keeping a journal. Describe how learners will navigate or be engaged. Website technology chosen for the innovation, WordPress.com. It's a pretty straightforward content management system. The website is relatively easy to navigate. Yes, it's meant to showcase the academic portions, the bibliography, the research. I'm currently working on a side or companion set of pages. They don't have access to everything. Currently, the header and footer navigation menus contain links to all relevant pages, and yes, all relevant pages, including my professors. So, yes, it's meant to simplify, but on the other hand, the current navigation is more of the academic version, if you will, of the intervention. The blog feature, for example, I have renamed it as bibliography to facilitate the documenting of the intervention's creation. I'm going to do it on the site. I'm doing it also on the school's portfolium.com. I think it's called portfolium.com website. And hopefully to keep track of future accomplishments. Why? The thought is that I will get feedback and input from other people who are already doing it or who are interested in doing it. And then it will be crowdsourced. Otherwise, the embedded code on the website will transport the learners to the companion YouTube channel. That's where the actual videos are staying at. Within the videos, whenever applicable, there is a chapter feature that has been enabled as to facilitate internal navigation of the content being taught or shared. The point of that is that you don't have to watch the whole video. You can just skip ahead to what you want to see. Again, the audience is proficient in the use of the tools. This may be something they're already doing, or there may be something that they're not, or something that they want to validate or explain or tell us how they do it. Finally, the YouTube cards feature at the end of most videos will cross-reference the content, let you navigate between the learning outcome videos to the one that follows, or the ones that can give you a better picture of what the intervention is about. Continuity, of course, we'll keep an eye out for it. In other words, the delivery methodologies, again, I said this was going to be academic, are blended learning, mostly asynchronous. That means people are just going to do things on their own. I will try to share responsibly and sensibly. There is a delivery methodology for those of us who are IDs, instructional designers, that one of the authors calls social network driven learning. It's out there, it's new, but I think we could all agree we learn so much through these technologies, especially YouTube. There is a commercial of them that talks about that's how the world learns how to do most everything. Finally, all this partaking and interacting in what are called communities of practice or COPs will hopefully even if it's a small group, add input from others that find the use case useful and usable, and we will find ourselves then in the realm of crowdsourcing. Now, we discussed the experience, including major milestones you had while creating the project. This is the introspection portion, and I think the last of the bullet points for this introduction to the intervention. It has been an eye-opening journey to what actually makes a learning engage with an intervention. Assumptions about to be proven as we invite the public to partake. Given the alignments found with specific speech projects in the last levels of the Pathways learning experience, I repeat again, the ability to not only document them for evaluation, but to use those artifacts to complete docent projects, namely podcasting, blogging, and social media. In other words, I'm going to use those projects to promote the intervention and see other projects can help me with that. So far, it's been a very interesting set of dovetailing opportunities. Finally, being able to draw on volunteer leaders and peers for the initial analysis surveys, thank you guys, as well as the alpha and beta testing phases, thank you peers and fellow Toastmasters, attest to the spirit of compassionate and unstinting support of pervasive Toastmaster organization. Future milestones are geared towards debugging and polishing the content through the utilization of the principles. Again, I'm going to use the projects, showcase it, hopefully find others in the Toastmasters membership across the world with the online modality. I've heard so many interesting stories of giving out speeches. I hope they will find this project, this intervention, interesting for them. The expectation is for their input and participation to validate its title. Again, collaborative content creation and curation. This slide here is from one of the classes. It's called a theory of change diagram. It's the Kellogg Foundation had a paper that we had to review. I like the way it shapes the intervention as a agent of change. I wrote on their strategies to shape it, meant to strengthen and publicize the principles of the program as assumptions. Sorry, I should have started on the top right. Assumptions are that volunteers and leaders find the thought of boosting projects with evaluation and promotion projects agreeable across most layers of this organization, and that they will be interested in the content becoming promotional. Again, the strategy was to shape it, meant strengthen and publicize our timeless principles. I think corporations, that's the final slide that follows. Corporations want to hear about how to do better hybridization too. Not just documentation, but better hybridization. I think we're really good at that. Inflation factors, the last 2 years, I don't have to elaborate on that. There's been a massive reshuffle in patterns of work and arguably enjoyment. There is a sustained massive adoption of virtual technology. And I don't have to mention this, but content creation, so-called influencers, we're literally catching up. That's more of a generational statement. We're literally catching up. It's something that I don't even have to prove or ask to prove, because it's how a lot of the world communicates today. In our case, the problem issue could be, I don't have the data, but I know in my clubs, membership has been a struggle in the last couple of years as we switch back and forth between hybrid and in person. These non-traditional gathering methods have been a bit controversial. Let's admit it, that's a problem. Some people like them, some people don't. And of course, this impacts the bottom lines of our clubs, our areas, our districts. The community needs and assets, perhaps an increased need for promotional content. I'm talking, sorry, you wearing my public relations hat there. We are also, the assets are, we have a refined and skilled volunteer workforce. That's ourselves. And you could say that together we have very impressive technical skill sets. The way we put together some of these events, it's really a testament to how enthusiastically we embrace technology in Toastmasters. And once again, as professionals, the demographics of the organization now include many information technology professionals, many people who deal with technology, and I think this use case calls for their skills. And finally, in this theory of change diagram, we're almost done. The desired results are for the content to be better formatted, for it to eventually become part of our promotions, and ideally for this to call for more diverse membership. And when I wrote global recognition, I think corporations can benefit from this. Corporations such as Microsoft. This was a recent article telling us that flexible work is here to stay and that the landscape of talent and labor has shifted. Remote work creates opportunities, however, creates challenges. Teams become more siloed, isolated, and what they call digital exhaustion. I don't think I need to elaborate on that. And that last paragraph about the global workforce, some people call it the great resignation, some people call it the great reevaluation. But the fact is that companies as large and as relevant as Microsoft are talking about the relevance of hybrid. And to me, the use case embodies that. Thanks for watching. Again, this is Francisco Palacio working on his final class in his Master of Science in Instructional Design and Technology at the University of Arizona Global Campus, Forbes School of Business and Technology. At the website, c4hpl.org, we have some forms for the beta. If you want to go to the website and evaluate it, forms are there. Again, the title of the website, c4hpl.org, Collaborative Content Creation and Curation. And before you leave, if you manage to embrace portions of the use case or the whole use case and you want to give us credit, all we want is a hashtag. That's all we're asking for. I selected now Journaling Journey because I think that's a very simple way to explain what this is all about, what all this 27 minutes been all about, or C4HPL. That's the other hashtag. Thank you very